I wanted to start by obviously thanking everyone for joining, and particularly, as I said, Dr. Caroline for joining in this week two of our Festival of Flourishing, our expert session and joint reflection, community reflection opportunity. And I wanted to start by, again, just pausing to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, where I am lucky enough to be sitting slightly sweaty today. It's very, very warm where I am. I'm sure it is where a lot of you are as well. And just to reflect on the fact that Caroline and I probably share the Western training that we usually mean when we say evidence-based, and that's exactly what we'll be talking about today, is all of that wonderful research evidence for the power of connection in flourishing, in helping us to recover from stress and to flourish, but to recognise that Indigenous knowledge systems kind of glommed onto that a really long time ago. And so recognising that when we say evidence-based, that's another kind of evidence. That's a culture that survived for tens of thousands of years. And so I'd like to really pause and appreciate the elders of all of the Indigenous countries around the places where we live for keeping that alive, and to particularly welcome and acknowledge Indigenous folks, so Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who might have joined the call, and really to encourage different points of view as we're having the discussion. So that being the case, what are we doing and why? So if you missed the first session, this is a kind of a joint exercise, partly in talking to an expert in the particular thing that we're looking at for this week for the Festival of Flourishing. And then secondly, to just spend some time reflecting together. We know it's really powerful. We know that just pausing to kind of take stock and to process what's been going on is an unbelievably simple and powerful thing that we can be doing for our mental health, but it's really, really hard to make time. And we just thought it would be more fun to do it together. So that's what these sessions are about. So a very simple plan. We're going to chat with an expert, and then we are going to make sense of it all together, hopefully, over the next half an hour, 45 minutes or so. So Dr. Caroline, first of all, introduction to you, and for everyone else, if you want to connect with Caroline and learn more about what she's doing, those are all her links on the screen. While I give a little bit of a voiceover on her background, obviously feel free to take down any of those details that are useful to you, and then I'm going to stop sharing so we can have a proper chat and actually connect. So Caroline has, I was a bit surprised to remind myself of this, 30 years in workplace health and safety, psychology, and particularly rehabilitation. She is a dead set legend in this space, I like to say. She's a director of the Psychosocial Safety and Leadership Institute, and she founded Create Today, which encompasses a whole bunch of really great stuff, including How Safe, so workplace health and safety solutions, and My Social Support Network, which is specifically about rehab through connection. She's a researcher, she's an expert in systems design, and she's all about practical implementation. So I'm super excited to be having a conversation with her today. And I thought what we might do is just start with a kind of storytelling with Dr. Caroline. So there's a lot of focus on loneliness recently. It's become a bit of a buzz, and I thought it would just be, you were kind of let's say an early adopter of connection as a way to prevent mental health issues. How did that happen?
Well, as you said, I've been working in the rehab space for 30 years, and specifically with psychological injuries. That's something I suppose I fell into more than anything, as opposed to this strong desire. People recover differently. You can have the same injury, you can have the same socioeconomic background, you can have the same ethnicity, and people will get better at different rates. And it was such almost this frustration of why? Like, why does this person recover well and these terrible things happen to this person, and then this person hurts their finger and then they fall off into this abyss? And And so we started to do all of this research, particularly, I guess in the last, say, 10 to 15 years, where it just became more and more evident that if people do not have their tribe around them, those people that they can confidently lean on and ask questions of, and just know that they've got your back, that became the biggest difference in any kind of recovery. It became a difference whether you fell over in the first place. Do
Mm.
you know that you can have a severe traumatic incident as a child? So you could have something, if you go through all the different things that traumatic things that could happen, if that event happens and you go home to a loving and supportive network, you are very unlikely to experience the trauma in adulthood. But if you go home and that person's not there, then your ability to recover is really different. So, it goes right back to who we are as a species, that idea that we just need people. So that really was, how I came into it, because it was heartbreaking. I'll tell you a little on the side because it really ground my gears. I was about 25 years old and I was working at a rehab provider. And when you're working in rehab, you might have like 30 people that you've got to look after, a whole caseload. So
Mm.
I would organise weekly morning teas, and people would come in and they would have a coffee, and then we would help them, and then they would help each other, and they would go, "Oh, red looks good on you, and why don't you try this job?" and blah blah blah. And my boss said, "You are wasting so much time. What you are doing is terrible." And I thought, no, it's not. These
Mm.
people show up. They're talking to each other. They've created friends with each other. And you're telling me I'm doing a bad job. So, we need to feel seen and heard, and
Mm.
whether it's at work or at home,
Yep.
that was the inspiration. It's been like a chariot I've been, driving for a long, long time.
So interesting. Thank you. I love to hear. I always hear the background story of how someone's come to be so passionate about the area that they're working in. And I guess it's a really good segue into my next question, which is, all right, you've identified something that people aren't paying enough attention to. You've seen something that other people are not seeing.
Mm.
And then you've taken the step out of a very secure world of working in standard rehab to become an entrepreneur in this space. Like, what was it that made you think, well, someone's got to do this? I guess it's going to be me.
The, the a previous role that I had was as the head of research for um, a very large workers' comp insurance. I don't want to say any
You might
names,
name them.
but it was for a really large organisation that happened to insure all of New South Wales. And what we could, and the scheme keeps talking about biopsychosocial. People talk about it all the time. We have, okay, so what does psychosocial mean? And then they mush it together. They have the social and the psychological. So anyway,
Mm.
at the time, we did a big systematic literature review. We looked at all workers' comp systems all around the world. And we said, out of all of these systems, who does anything with social? And the answer is no. Do you know that we continued on with the research, and it really was from memory only about 2019 that they found that the pain center that fires when you have physical pain is the same pain center that fires in the brain with social pain.
Yeah.
So why don't we mush physical and social together? Why are we mushing the psychological and the social?
I blame Descartes, but that's just me.
And the problem was that we could see this happening. We could see that there were pathways of being able to help someone, and yet no one wanted to help. This idea that you can prevent people falling into this well of despair where they truly don't feel like they've got anything there for them. is
Mm.
is preventable at when we're talking about certain levels of injury and illness. It's not, and we need to define that. This isn't like someone who has been diagnosed with a mental illness who then is just unable to take that next step. This is someone who wouldn't naturally have any diagnosis and then is just completely unable to get out of bed because they don't have anyone to talk to.
Mm.
So I stopped waiting for someone to fix it. It felt like this moral calling. I had to go out and make it practical because the other thing is people didn't know. We would go in at the time. We would go in to our own offices and have this thing called a community tea. And the only thing we asked people was when we'd book everybody out and we'd say, come in, and we'd have games there and we would have cake and tea, and people would come and they didn't know what to do. And I said, there's only one rule. You are not allowed to talk about work. So the men would stand around, big life-size Jenga, and
Mm.
they would say, shoulder to shoulder, they'd go, yeah, my kid's got autism.
Mm.
The other one would go, my wife has cancer. Now suddenly they're trying to engineer the best way to get Jenga to work,
Yep.
but at the same time be able to help each other. And that was that connection. They walk away, and now the next time they walk down the hall to this random stranger, they can actually just have a chat to someone and go, how is the wife? I know that
Mm.
they're feeling really bad about it. So those were the things that inspired me. On a personal level, though, I think, and it's funny because I hadn't really thought of this, but I'm thinking about it now. I had heart surgery when I was 17, open heart surgery, and I was stuck at home for 3 months. And then in my late 20s and early 30s, I had 3 cancers within 3 years. I was really sick. And I can remember being stuck in an isolation ward. They didn't let anybody in.
Mm.
And in those days, there was no internet and there was no cable. There was just nothing. It was silence. And it was so incredibly cruel as a way to recover.
Mm.
And then you look at the prison system. What's the worst thing you can do for someone? Stick them in social isolation.
Mm.
And we, as a species, we're very cruel. We just exclude people if we don't want them to be part of the group anymore. Makes us feel
Mm.
very unsafe. So if we're kind of going back to why this inspiration, there were lots and lots of things that kind of built up for me
Mm.
to continue to want to make it practical and not so scary.
Thanks for sharing, Caroline. I didn't know that either about your background, so it's really helpful to understand lots of context to the wonderful work that you're doing. I want to flip it around now because we've been
Mm.
talking about rehabilitation from injury, and obviously the Festival of Flourishing is more about building resilience, strength, resources, helping people on the day-to-day to use connection as a part of their recovery routine. What opportunities do you think people are missing? Like what do you think people are maybe misunderstanding about the power of connection still?
Oh, look at this.
Uh-huh.
As soon as I do that, I've stopped talking to everybody.
Yeah.
People have forgotten to just say hello, to
Mm.
walk in and introduce themselves. Social connection is not the big stuff. It's those little teeny tiny moments that make us feel like we belong to
Mm.
something, that we are seen, we are heard. And more importantly, we are so designed to look for danger constantly.
Mm.
Now, if I'm looking for danger and you're looking for danger, we'll never connect. So one of us has to step forward and say hello.
Mm.
And we are wired to hear inauthenticity. I'll know the minute you smile at me, whether it's real or not. You'd have to be a really, really good actor.
How am I doing?
You're doing really well. I feel connected.
Excellent.
But if I
So
didn't,
good.
I'd get straight on the phone to Nicole afterwards and I'd go, that Helen,
Yeah, that's it.
It's that
My reputation.
it's not how many connections we have, it's that quality stuff. I once sat on I was on I got off a plane and next to me was this woman in her 80s. I didn't know it at the time, but she was beautifully dressed. And I said to her, I just want you to know that you look absolutely beautiful today. Like you're so well put together. I think I was sitting in tracksuit and she was just put together. And she said, that is the nicest compliment anyone has given me, or the nicest thing anyone said in many, many years.
Oh,
And I thought, how sad. And, we'd become unseen as we get older.
mm,
So, yes, those small things to allow us to flourish. We feel more confident. We feel that we have the courage to say something else to someone else. If
mm,
someone says something to me when I'm getting a coffee and I can turn around and smile at someone else genuinely. So it's all of those small, teeny tiny little moments that have the greatest impact on our social health. If it's not, you got to think of it like if I want to do weight training, I go to the gym and there's structure for that. If I want to do social training to build up that connection, I have to talk to people.
mhm.
I have to connect with them. It's the only way to do it.
Excellent. Get the reps in.
Yeah, it's not a soft skill.
Mm,
This is what keeps our nervous system regulated. It keeps hope alive. It's critical to
mm.
flourishing is social connection, and yet completely overlooked and almost misunderstood. In some ways, I'm really pleased about COVID. COVID allowed us to learn the word social, but all we
Yep.
learnt was social distancing.
Distancing.
Keep away.
Yeah. Hey, that's been awesome, Dr. Caroline. Thank you very much for all of that background. I'm just going to open it up to everyone else now to ask questions because it's such a great opportunity for everyone to have a chat with you. Who's got questions? Either come off mute or drop them into the chat, whatever works for you. Everything you've ever wanted to know about the science of connection.
But know that I get very passionate and I can just talk and talk and talk.
Oh, it sounds like we've been preaching to the converted a little bit. I think it happened a little bit last week as well. People are very keen. Um, I wonder then if you can tell us, and please everyone, if you do think of questions, just don't feel like I've ridden over the top of you. Do jump in. But I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what's next for you.
What's next for us is that Nicole and I we have created the Psychosocial Safety and Leadership Institute, which we have been very passionate about because in line with social connection, people don't know what good looks like. It's hard to know when you're kind of stuck in your bubble of stress and being overwhelmed all the time. So we wanted to make complex ideas as far as that psychosocial safety accessible and simple. So a place where you also can go in and have a micro connection and talk to someone about what is going on for them to help you feel supported, with the tools and the resources. So that's what we're working on at the moment.
Excellent. Ahead of the curve again. Hey, Naveen has decided to rep us introverts. Thank you, Naveen. It's a good question. So how does connection work for introverts? How should we be getting our reps in?
It's a really interesting question because this is how I understand the research, and I am very happy to be corrected. But the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is about where you get your energy from. So the extrovert loves to chat, doesn't really care who it is necessarily, just wants to talk, 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 talk. And an introvert, we get our energy from being alone. My son is an extrovert. Now, his quiet evening would be to invite 5 people over, play loud music. That's
Nice.
that's his perfect world. He gets energy from that. His partner, unfortunately, does not, and she prefers things to be quiet. Now, so where we get our energy from allows us to then go out and make those actual micro connections. Whether I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert, if I don't have the energy that I've got more to give, I've got nothing left to give. So as an introvert, you will always need that time and that space to think, to be present, to feel like you are whole. Then you can go outside, smile at someone, give them a compliment, ask to share a meal because you got the energy for it. The extrovert will go out and share the meal and talk to them because they're getting the energy from that. But the connection and the way that we connect is the same.
Fantastic articulation. Thank you. It's a recurring theme, I think, in connection. And it's a really lovely illustration of the fact that connection's part of the recovery picture. It's a really important and undervalued part of the recovery picture, but it's not the whole picture.
No, and look, and someone who is more introverted may just prefer to have one person come over, and
Mm.
that's fine. My son would disagree, but
Would not
oh,
enjoy.
oh my God, he just doesn't seize the point. Why ever be alone? Like it's probably some deep psychological thing there. We can talk about that another time, but not in the
Okay.
Festival of Flourishing.
Okay. All right. Erica, one of the Ericas. Hello.
It's not actually Erica, it's Erica's little minion Joe. Um, I just had a question for you, Caroline. I found this really interesting. You talk about people that are introverted because I feel like you probably tell like I talk a lot. I'm in Erica's team after all. So I feel like when I talk to people that are introverted, I feel like I feel the silence because I'm uncomfortable. But then I feel like they like the silence because that makes them comfortable. And then I feel like I'm suffocating. And then I feel like I'm annoying them. And then I'm kind of like, do they just live in this world where they like listening? But I'm like, I don't know. I was just really curious about that.
I always try and explain um, introversion and extroversion. An extrovert to me is like a chrysanthemum, lots and lots and lots of petals, can throw lots and lots of things around. And introverts are like tulips, just a few petals, a few precious petals. The introvert or the person who feels that and think about it as energy. So if you were an extrovert and talking, 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 all you're really doing is just draining energy from someone who will need at some point in time to go off and take a little bit of a break. It's not that it's annoying though, like it it's all connection with authenticity is wonderful. And I have the energy to be with this authentic, amazing. My kids both are extroverts. They are just a million miles a minute, and I love it. And they they are entertaining and they're fun. I don't get drained from that, but I do need that time where I say time out. I need to have my space and then come back into it. So I don't think of it as annoying. Think of it as, this wonderful opportunity to just show all your chrysanthemum petals to someone who may only have 5 or 6.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I like that. I feel like in dating, naturally you attract people that are opposite to you. And I've had that a lot where people that are introverted, they're like, I love how extroverted you are because you do all the socializing and I just sit here. I'm like, oh, okay.
I'm totally the same. I love to be entertained by the extroverts in my life. The real Erica Venter, please step up.
Yes, she is. I honestly, I put the meeting invite in all of our calendars with the same link, so I apologize. We should have all
No,
signed up
that's fine.
separately. But um, Thank you so much, Caroline. This has just been so great. And I think for me, uh, only really recently when I watched that Blue Zones documentary around sort of people who get to centenarians, people who live to 100. And the theme throughout all of those communities was connection, social togetherness, and for me, it's like the first time I became cognizant of the importance of that for longevity. In my role at the moment, and Joe in my team and the other Erica's on the call, we support customers who are, trying to navigate new frameworks around, psychologically safe places, preventing psychological injury, all of those kind of things. And in some degree, um, they are communities, right? Every organization is a community.
Yes.
What advice would you give, not to me, but let's say you're me to a company or whatever, around reframing ways of working, right? Because it's like I've got a job, I'm paid, you give me money, this is my job, I chop that out, I've done what you want, you give me my money, the contract has been met. But the idea of actually flourishing in the Festival of Flourishing, organizations focusing on this connectivity, focusing on this relationship piece, what advice would you give?
It's very funny you say that because I just wrote something on this today because it's also Mental Health Day. There's such a strong focus on compliance in our policies, in the way we design work, and yet there's no framework or rules to have that built into job descriptions. So instead of telling me what I'm doing wrong, even if we're talking about performance reviews, how can you flip that so that you allow me to flourish? Therefore, you're asking me the question, what is getting in my way of being able to flourish? What is getting in my way of being able to have that energy that I need to do my job? We need to approach flourishing in workplaces from a very systematic approach. We can't be just saying to someone, well, we're just going to build resilience in you. Let's just make you more resilient. The work is shitty. The people are horrible. And you don't get paid very much. But I'm going to put you through a course and you will just learn to be okay with it. Instead of saying, okay, how do we untangle this so that we can truly flourish? As a business, you are 100% going to make more profit anyway, because the most important resource that you have as an employer are your people. It's a social capital. So that idea of being able to look at the job descriptions, look how the roles are designed, look how the environment is designed. How awful in an environment to put someone who is an introvert in an open plan office. What an awful thing to do. You stick all those extroverts in there, right? You go in there and then give the introverts a quiet space to think, to work, to get their energy. And if employers could actually look at how can I make my workplace flourish with the people that I have, then you can set up policies and frameworks and job descriptions that allow people to do that.
That's fantastic, Caroline. I couldn't agree more. The compliance focus is about making things less bad, less awful. We're not actually designing for good. And if we design for good, then we wouldn't have to worry about the compliance part because we'd already be compliant.
That's right. There would be respectful accessibility. That's what Nicole and I were talking about today. You're not. It's less about compliance, more about creating that respectful accessibility so that it's accessible, whether you are from a different culture, whether you have a disability, whether you have children, you don't have children, whatever. It's accessibility and in a respectful way. That is more important than to create that set of those rules that then move towards flourishing workplace.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's been just an awesome conversation to have last thing on a Friday, second week of the festival. I'm going to
My
move
pleasure.
on to our second agenda item, as it were. So I'll just get that slide back up again. For anyone who does want to connect with Dr. Caroline, I'm just obviously give you another couple of minutes to take down any of her details and find her online if you would like to. And give you an opportunity. Those who have just joined for the chat with Caroline, obviously don't feel shy if you need to drop off, take your opportunity to drop off. But now we're going to move into the reflection part of our discussion. So thanks, Nick. That's very helpful. Okay. So for those of you who are able to join the workshop in week 1 on the 1st of October, you'll recognise this canvas. For those who haven't seen it before, just a quick orientation. This is the canvas that we use to help people understand the big system that creates burnout. And if you flip it around, you can create flourishing, which is exactly what Caroline's just been talking about. Just fantastic segue. Thank you for that. Last week we talked about stress. So we focused on those top 2 quadrants, the good stress, bad stress piece of the picture. Today, obviously this week, we've been very focused on recovery and specifically connection in that context. So I'm going to invite you, I'll put some thinking music on now. If you don't have the canvas, I think Naveen's put the link into the chat, but obviously just feel free to use your journal or however else you like to take notes. And just have a think about the week that's just passed. Spend 5 or 10 minutes just thinking about good recovery. So recovery that's genuinely made you feel like you've kind of topped up your resources during the day. Bad recovery, that classic example from Caroline before around picking up that phone. Hard to avoid, just not recovery. So I'm sure all of us have got examples of bad recovery that happened during the week. Give that some thought. I will put some thinking music on if I can pull that up. And obviously, if you have questions along the way, jump in and I will pull us all together again to have a chat afterwards. So go for it. How did we go, everybody? Good. Enough time? We were having such a good chat. We ran a little bit into reflection time. What we've been doing is kind of doing a little bit of sorting at the end into those things we just want to put in the compost pile because we don't need to use them anymore. We don't want to take them into the weekend. Sometimes there are dramas during the week that we just want to close the curtains on because they'll keep going, but we don't want to watch them over the weekend. And there are things to put on the trophy shelf. So things that we want to perhaps celebrate, pause on, often the small things that escape us in the rush of the week. So if you had reflections on your good recovery, bad recovery that you wanted to share, or if you had things you wanted to throw on the compost heap, close the curtains on, or stick on the trophy shelf, I would love to hear about them.
A movie's good. I would say good. I love to just chill out and watch a movie. It used to be like a Friday thing, and now it's like if I get time, an everyday thing. And if I don't, I'm like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. It's time to brush. So that's well, you can't put it in the compost.
No, don't put it in the compost. I would put that on the trophy shelf. Nick, if you've had movies during the week that you have enjoyed, then I would absolutely stick that on the trophy shelf. You are the best judge of what is good recovery. And actually, we'll be talking a bit about that next week in our focus on the energy gauge part of this system. How do I tell what's good recovery and bad recovery? It's about tuning into what actually gives you energy, exactly as Caroline's just been talking about with introversion, extroversion, and socializing. It applies to everything. So thank you. Thanks for sharing, Nick. What have you watched recently that was awesome?
A lot. Okay, I watched the Harry Potter series, and then the Marvel series, and then like chronologically, that takes a while. And the Fast and Furious.
Okay. It's good comfort viewing, I call it. It's like a big bowl of pasta.
Oh, I've had that too.
Good. Erica?
I was going to say, I really love on a Friday afternoon the metaphor of closing the curtains on the week. We reflected on that a little bit as a team from last week, and this idea of not stealing real estate, not allowing work or your thoughts about work stealing real estate from your weekend. So I wanted to thank you for that metaphor. It's just a way of thinking about it, and I love it. I literally sent Beck in my team a message going, close the curtains, babe, and go and have fun with your family. So
Excellent.
I love it. I just wanted to share that.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for that feedback, Erica. Yeah, it is a lovely metaphor, not an original one that I have borrowed from a friend. Caroline.
I was going to add to what Erica said. I don't know if this is a term that's used, but one that I use all the time, and that's time hijackers. I just get so, and it just happens because it's overwhelming. That's got to go in the compost bin.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, we need to just leave them behind. Learn what we can and leave them behind. Agree. Hey, I would love to keep talking. We're at 5:15 though, which is when I said we'd finish. So to respect your obviously your collective wish to get on with your weekends, we will close. And I wish you the opportunity to ripple out in the way that we always say your changes that you make for yourself ripple out to everyone else that you interact with. This is about being able to connect from that place of having done a little bit of processing before going into the weekend. And obviously, if you do need help with what we're talking about here, obviously reach out to the very wonderful Caroline and to Nick as part of PSLI, but also reach out to us as well. We would love to help prevent burnout in teams on the kind of scale that we think it deserves. Thanks, everyone. Have a terrific weekend and look forward, hopefully, to seeing you next week. Bye.